Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. I'm your host, Rob Cramer, alongside, as always, my co-host, Daniel Bobo Kurlan. Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm happy and bummed out. Happy on one end that the Rangers won last night. That was such a great win. We needed that win. We were going into Carolina, even the series at 2 apiece. And I have great confidence in us in breaking Carolina's home winning streak. And on the other end, well, after work, I fell asleep, of course, because of the late night West Coast game. Of course, if it was playoffs, I'd stay up for the whole game. But for this regular season game, I just went to sleep, set the DVR, watch the rest of it tomorrow at the next day after work. So around 9 o'clock or so, I go on my DVR, watch the game and that one really stunk really bad.
Yeah, painful loss last night for the Mets. For the Mets after a very improbable comeback. They were down 8-2. Ended up, you had the Francisco Lindor 2-run home run to cut the lead to 8-4. Then they had a 7-run 8th inning, and then after that, top of the 8th inning, when the Mets scored 7, the game just got freaking crazy, where the Giants turned around, tied the game at the bottom of the inning. The Mets took the lead in the top of the 9th, and then the Giants would go on to win it in the bottom of the 9th. So just like you said, a very up and down, crazy game. But just like where you started off, though, our team, the New York Rangers, had yet another great win for them last night in this coming from behind series where they were down 2-0 opening the games 3 and 4 at Madison Square Garden. The Rangers would erase that deficit and, as they say, hold serve. And now we go 2-2 back to Carolina. So just like you said, we got to be pretty confident in our team at this point. The New York Rangers have proven that they're not to be taken lightly. And even though this Carolina team was heavily favored coming into this series, it looks like the Rangers are going to push them to the limit.
Yep, exactly. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be a bloodbath, and I'm excited for Game 5, and hopefully another win on a Thursday. And if the Rangers go into what will be Saturday with one win away from winning that, I might have to go someplace. I might have to go to a bar to watch a game 6 if we're one win away. I just got to be there if we advance to the next round. Be in a crowd.
Very true. And could it be Donovan's calling your name?
Yep, could potentially be. Great place. Of course, as said it before, it's a great place to watch a game. The food is great. The burgers are great. It's actually of course, it's a couple of subway stops away from Citi Field. It's also a Long Island Railroad stop away from Madison Square Garden, by the way. So anyone that's going to the Game 6, you could pregame there. It's a subway stop away from the Garden.
Very good point.
And Long Island Railroad stop away.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. Just a stone's throw away from Madison Square Garden, as the New York Rangers right now. I'm sure a lot of excited Ranger fans are going to be heading over there just like you are, Dan. And, let's get into this series right off the bat here, as, boy, it's like a tale of two cities, as we've seen so far in this series. So the Rangers dispatched of the Pittsburgh Penguins last week as they knocked them off in Game 7 last Sunday. We move on to the second round, and the Rangers and Carolina Hurricanes square off. the first two games, very, very hotly contested games. Really defensive first mindset that's coming. Very few and far between scoring chances. Not a lot of room on the ice. The Rangers really didn't look too comfortable, especially setting up their power play. Coming off those two first games, Dan, I mean, we had a 2-1 overtime loss in game one, and then they get shut out 2-0 in game two. It's 1-0, until the end when Carolina would put the cherry on top and score a empty net goal to make it 2-0 to secure that anti-Ranta shutout. But man, after those first two games, how are you feeling coming back to the Garden?
I just had a feeling that don't panic yet. All right, that game we just lost. We just lost a close one. This team could have easily have been up to. We could have easily been up to nothing. So both games felt just winnable, and we had the unfortunate luck of giving up those goals in a big defensive battle. And so I got ready I believe it was on Sunday, nice little Sunday matinee. Just grab some food, watch the game. I said Rangers won. I just had a feeling we're winning game two. And we did. And I guess maybe you could say it was a blowout in hockey terms. So
it's very very close to a blowout, if anything, the way that the last game went. The game prior to that, so they lost that. Let's start at the beginning. So we lost that 2-1 opener at Carolina, game one, where Filipino scored an early goal to put the Rangers up 1-0, and they would hold on to that goal as the only goal of the game until under 2 minutes remaining in the game. They get a crazy chance in front of Shesterkin where Sebastian Aho, unfortunately, puts the puck in the back of the net to tie the game. Really, really tough defensive breakdown in front of Shesterkin because he played superbly. So you really have to tip your cap to him. He has really erased any doubts that people have had of him in the playoffs through these first four in the second round series against Carolina. But specifically in that one, just bad luck. Sebastian Aho, one of the most elite players in the game, comes in, ties the game with under 2 minutes remaining, and then they'd go on to lose in overtime. Ian Cole, a not very well-known defenseman, puts it in the back of the net, and the Rangers end up dropping that game 2-1. Really feels like they just had their lunch money taken with that game because they really should have won that game. Game two, different story. I mean, I agree with you that the Rangers did play well in this game. They limited shot chances and everything, but you really have to tip your cap to Antti Ranta in that game. He stopped every opportunity the Rangers had. The Rangers could not get set up on that power play, and he turned that into a 2-0 win and 2-0 series advantage. And you have to say the former Ranger backup goalie was playing, at his peak level at that point, right, Dan?
Yeah, pretty much. He was playing at his peak, and like I said, that game was going to be. It was a battle of the goalies, and we were on the short end of it.
Yeah, very true. And unfortunately, as well as Igor did play, they were on the short end of that one, just like you said. Not so much in game three, as the series shifted back to Madison Square Garden, and the Rangers took on Carolina, just trying to chip away at that series lead at that point. And, when you look at everything that had transpired in this series to that point, there's one thing that really stands out to me that goes back to the first series as well. The Rangers fell into that 3-1 series hole against Pittsburgh in the first round. And what was, aside from Igor not playing at his peak level, what was one of the consistent things that we saw through the first 4 games against Pittsburgh and the first 2 games against Carolina? And if you ask me, that is Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad, not really contributing that much. I mean, obviously they do their stuff that isn't going to show up on the score sheet. But when you're two of the higher paid New York Ranger players, two guys that are widely considered, the veteran presence and potential captains in that Ranger locker room, you need to show up on the score sheet too. And unfortunately, through the first 2 games in this series and the first 4 games in the Pittsburgh series, they really didn't show up too much. But the difference is that in the last 2 games of this series, and the rest of the first round series against Pittsburgh, these best players really did show up. Mika Zibanejad started it off. It was a power play goal that really broke things open in the in that game. And maybe I misspoke there. It didn't really break things open, but that set the tone. When the Rangers finally scored a power play goal at home in front of the home crowd and had everybody going crazy, you were able to sit back and relax a little bit. I mean, not feeling, like the Rangers were going to run away with it, but you were at least able to sit back and relax a little bit that they finally ended their scoreless streak, scored a power play goal, and are out in front here in Game 3, right, Dan?
Yep, exactly. I called it. I said, I feel like our chances of winning this game are better after that goal. Even my mother said it, and someone who was a fellow Rangers fan who had texted me was saying that also.
Yeah, and no doubt about it, that's exactly was the case. It just felt like it took a lot of pressure off us, the fans, and that had to translate to taking a lot of pressure off the guys in the locker room too. No more squeezing the stick. No more, just hoping and praying that when you put the shot on goal, it finds a way to get through. Because right after that, then Chris Kreider would turn around and score a big goal to give him a 2-0 lead, where it's the first time in the series that either team, except for the empty netter at the end of Game 2, would have a 2-goal lead this early in the game. So you really felt good about that too. Obviously, Nino Niederreiter would end up scoring a goal after that to make it 2-1. One of the weaker goals that Igor has given up in this playoffs. And even he said it. You really have to love how the Garden fans and Ranger fans in general reacted to him giving up that goal because, especially New York, you think places like New York and Boston and Philly where people are going to jump if you're not producing. People are going to jump on you if you give them any reason to, for the most part. Igor gives up that goal, and what does the Garden faithful start doing? Suddenly you hear that chant coming up. Igor, 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 Igor. And it wasn't the sarcastic one that we heard from Pittsburgh. It was the New York Rangers faithful getting behind our guy, the future, this season, Vezina Trophy winner, Igor Shesterkin. Dan, how did you like that, man? I mean, that was just like, that made me feel so good as a Ranger fan that our fans got behind Igor, even when he finally slipped up and made a little mistake.
I felt it was rightfully deserving that they were right behind him. I was right behind him even after that. You could if you were present at my home, you would be hearing me chanting Igor. I was like very loud as I'm usually am during the playoff time. So it was that, and and Igor came through. And I have to say, I had the TV I had the radio feed up full volume. I had the TV on mute, especially the fact that the local, because I over the national feed, because Sam Rosen in a radio booth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right about that. Sam Rosen doing the games on the radio now, which is always a lot of fun to hear him doing that. That's the one unfortunate thing about moving on in the playoffs for hockey, at least, where after the first round, you lose your home, announcers and everything, and it goes to the national game. Like the Rangers have been on ESPN this whole second round, but I gotta say it hasn't been too bad. Definitely not as bad as the baseball announcers.
I got to say something to all the Ranger fans out of state, also wondering if they, before they think that they can't do this because they can't get the local radio feed in the area. Not many people are aware of this. The NHL is very nice enough to make all their radio feeds all season long available for free on their app. Free. You don't have to subscribe. You can get the radio feeds no matter where you live or your team free. So you could do the same thing like I did with my radio, where I turned on the radio and put the TV on mute. You could pull up the app, put the feed mute, and queue up the feed on the app.
Very true. 98.7 ESPN here in New York. You can hear it on the NHL app, which is very cool. And like Dan said, a very nice thing that the NHL has done. Not, unlike baseball, making you pay for the radio broadcast, the NHL just gives it to you for free. And still, even in the playoffs, keeps that up. So you can hear the sweet sounds of Sam Rosen if you decide to do that for yourself. So the other cool thing, too, is that there's been a guy who the Rangers got at the trade deadline, Tyler Mott, right? The Rangers got him. He's like a 4th/3rd line, bottom 6 player who's very fast, one of those guys that kills penalties. He does everything. He's like a Swiss Army knife. You could put him on any line, and he's going to produce. As a matter of fact, in the last game, he was playing with Philip Hedl and Alexis Lafreniere, so very cool to see him playing with such high-end talent. But, like I said, for the most part, he's a bottom 6 guy. He was injured. He had the broken collarbone, which he suffered in a regular season game on April 9th against the Pittsburgh Penguins. So, and he didn't come back until late in that series against Pittsburgh last round. So to see him go out there and score the empty net goal to put the icing on the cake of game 3 to chop that lead down half 2-1 was just really, really awesome. I'm a big fan of Tyler Mott. Dan, what are your thoughts on Tyler Mott? I think that guy fits perfectly, and not to get ahead of myself with this playoff run and everything, but I would love to see them find a way to bring him back next year.
Exactly. I feel he was one of the most overlooked pickups we made at the trading deadline. And of course, after he got that empty netter goal, it was pretty much victory and the Maloon again.
Exactly. Scoring the goal in.
Pick up the balloon again and hold him up high. Lion King.
Exactly. And if we're going to talk about, great production out of guys that we got at the trade deadline, that Chris Drury did a great job of bringing in and swinging all these deals for the trade deadline for the Rangers, knowing that these situations, these type of guys come up big. I mean, just look at what we've seen out of Andrew Kopp, who they got from the Winnipeg Jets. Andrew Kopp has just been incredible. He had his first 3-point game of his career in the playoffs last game. 5 goals, 5 assists for 10 points through 11 games so far. So Andrew Kopp has been awesome. He's been really good in the faceoffs too. They've ended up moving him over to center, where he played wing a lot of the time. But they moved Philip Hedl off to the wing in this game because he's really been struggling with his faceoffs. But we've seen a very good playoff run out of Hedl, also Lafreniere and Capo Caco so far. So very cool to see those guys producing. But, I mean, just like I said, Andrew Kopp and the other guy, too, a little less heralded, but he scored a gigantic goal in the game last night as what's his name? Frank Vetrano started it off. And, Frank Vetrano started the game off 13 minutes in, putting the Rangers up 1-0. And then right after that, Adam Fox made it 2-0. That was a shot from Lindgren that was deflected by Fox. But still, Vetrano and Kopp being in on both of those early goals. Kopp had an assist, along with Lindgren. Kopp had an assist on the Vetrano goal before that, and then Kopp would end up putting one in late to make it 4-1 in a spot where you really started to feel Carolina because it was 3-0, and then Carolina with Tara Vynant would cut that lead, would cut into that lead and make it 3-1. And I'm not saying that you were nervous after that, but when Tara Vynant scored the goal to make it 3-1, it really became much more clear that the Rangers needed to at least put one more in, and to put the Carolina Hurricanes to bed for the rest of that game, right, Dan?
Exactly. We needed to get one more in, and we did, and we came through and got that extra goal. We iced that game, and now we're up 0-2. We're up 2-2. We're tied at 2 apiece.
Yeah, exactly. And another cool thing too is that the Rangers only held, these shots had been through the first 2 games of this in Carolina. They only had 48 shots on goal for those 2 games. Now, the game 3 alone at Madison Square Garden, they had 44 shots, and Igor stopped 43 of the 44. So Igor really didn't blink at that. As a matter of fact, Igor looked like he was getting better as the game went on. And then they had 30 shots in the last game. So you just wonder what game 5 is going to look like now, as we have seen such a different style of play between the games played in Carolina and the games played in New York. Dan, what are you expecting in game 5? Are you thinking that this momentum that the Rangers have been building up over the last couple of games, and just like I mentioned before, that the Rangers weren't squeezing their sticks anymore, there is a team in this series squeezing their sticks now, and it's the Carolina Hurricanes, because Igor Shesterkin has been just befuddling them, stopping everything they've been throwing, and not to mention, they cannot score on the power play. They are one of the worst power play teams in the league, and it's carried over into the postseason. So when we shift back to Carolina, do you think this momentum is going to continue, or are we going to see the 6-0 home team that we normally see in Carolina?
I feel like the Rangers are going to carry this momentum into the next game. It's going to be a nail biter, and I'm hopeful we're going to come out on top.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it, man. But when you look at these numbers, I mean, these numbers through 2 rounds of the playoffs are crazy. The Hurricanes are 6-0 at home and 0-5 on the road. Antti Ranta, his goals against at home in those 6 games are 0.97. That's some crazy numbers, right?
It is crazy numbers, and I can't see that streak going on forever. Their home streak, it's ending. It's ending for tomorrow.
Yep. I like the way you think, man. I think there's no reason to doubt this Rangers team now. Coming into this series, I don't want to say that I didn't think the Rangers could win this series, but I thought that the Rangers had done enough to justify calling this season a good year, because they went out and won 53 games, or 52 actually. I'm sorry. They had just an incredible regular season, and then on top of that, with what looked like was going to be a soul-crushing first-round loss to Pittsburgh, they came back and ripped off 3 straight against a team that has won a couple of Stanley Cups in the last few years. So very, very cool. You knock off a bunch of Hall of Famers like Crosby and Malkin and Letang, guys who are probably going to be going in at some point in the next decade. And they pull that off. But when you go against a team like Carolina, who the Rangers have struggled against for the last couple of years, and who the Rangers got knocked out in the playoffs against the qualifying round, it didn't really look good. I feel like we're not playing with house money anymore. You know what I mean? We can't sit back and just say, oh, well, let's keep our fingers crossed and hope the Rangers win this series, because this has been, pretty fun run so far. You're 2-2 going to game 5 with a chance. The Rangers are 2 wins away from getting to the Eastern Conference Final for the first time in 7 years. doesn't that just blow you away, Dan?
It does. I can't believe this is happening. I just got to remind myself it actually is happening, and hopefully it will happen.
You're right, man. And when I look at the rest of the field of the teams in this Stanley Cup playoff right now, I mean, there's still a lot of talent out there. There's no doubt about that. Just look on our side of the bracket. Should we be lucky and talented enough to get past this very good Carolina Hurricanes team, we have the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning waiting for us. In game in the Eastern Conference Final. So this is a team that has knocked off a very talented Islanders team for the last 2 years. And don't forget, you know how I just mentioned that the Rangers haven't been to an Eastern Conference Final in 7 years? Well, the last time the Rangers were in the Eastern Conference Final was in 2015 against the Tampa Bay Lightning when they lost the series in 7, a crushing 2-0 loss at Madison Square Garden. Still to this day, the only Game 7 loss the Rangers have ever suffered at home in the playoffs at Madison Square Garden. So there's a lot to look forward to. What do you think, Dan? Are you looking forward to this potential Rangers Lightning matchup, or is it a little scary?
I think it's a matchup that favors the Rangers. We held our own very well against Tampa, especially even on the road in front of the city. I call New Yorkers that are still loyal to their teams that live in Florida. I call them the Six Borough Club. The Six will show up very strong for those games. Hopefully, once the Rangers advance, I'm hopeful that by next week's show, we're previewing the Eastern. We're doing an Eastern Conference Finals preview show next.
Man, I'm with you on that, and we got some good news today too. As a current Ranger and former Tampa Bay Lightning, a guy who was on both of their Stanley Cup championship teams, Barclay Goodrow, was skating today at the Rangers practice facility. Really, really encouraging news. A guy who in game 1 of the playoffs this year against the Pittsburgh Penguins broke his ankle blocking a shot in the third period of that game. Still played over about 2 periods. He played the rest of that third period, all of the first overtime, and the entire second overtime on a broken freaking ankle. So you got to give all the credit in the world to Barclay Goodrow. And if they could get this guy back in their lineup, oh, man, you put him with Tyler Mott and, you have a guy like Reeves out there. There's going to be a lot of bite and a lot of snarl to this team if we get that. And that's exactly what you need going against the Tampa Bay Lightning team that can push you around if you don't have enough of that, right?
Exactly.
And you know what, too, when you look on the other side of the bracket, because let's get crazy here, Dan. I mean, why not? We have so much to look forward to right now, and we can be so optimistic with our Rangers team. I mean, let's be honest. Last night, the Edmonton Oilers defeated the Calgary Flames 5-3. They put them in a 3-1 series hole. Now, I know you're like me, where you watched a lot of Rangers hockey this year. You probably caught every game just like I did. And there's 2 teams that really scare me from the West. And it shouldn't really surprise you because the top one is the Colorado Avalanche, who beat up the Rangers pretty good twice this year. There was another team that beat up the Rangers twice this year that really scared me, and that's the Calgary Flames. Now, the Calgary Flames are in a 3-1 hole against Edmonton, who I think in a 7-game series, the Rangers can hang in there and beat a team like Edmonton, who has very little attention to defense. What do you think about that, Dan? That's pretty intriguing right now, that one of the teams that could stand in the way of the Rangers winning a Stanley Cup this year is on the brink right now.
I think that I think that's a good thing. That could be a favorable matchup, or what I would call a Mark Messier Stanley Cup Finals, because you got to remember those are two teams that Mark Messier had a big impact on, two cities that Mark Messier is spoken in highly regards. Because you go in New York, of course, you mention Mark Messier, and you'll see a smile of a Rangers fan like myself, who was 12 years old back in '94, speak very highly of Messier and all those wonderful memories. I'm sure you mentioned Mark Messier in Edmonton. I mean, they will definitely talk about all those great memories of all those cups that Edmonton won with him and Gretzky. They had a dynasty over there in Edmonton. As a matter of fact, I think in Edmonton they have a street named after Messier, if I'm correct.
Well, you know what? If they don't have a street named after Mark Messier, they might as well just do it right now, because there are few people that deserve that honor more than Mark Messier in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. As you know, a lot of people all remember those 4 cups that he won together with Gretzky after they ended the Islanders dynasty. But I think the cup that they all hold dearest is the cup that they won in 1990 after Gretzky left. So, Messier definitely is beloved there, and obviously he's beloved here too. So just really, really, cool stuff we're seeing right now. The other series that's going on right now is 3-1 in favor of Colorado. It's Colorado over the St. Louis Blues. Now, I would definitely feel a little bit better about the Rangers' chances of like I said, we're going crazy here. We're jumping a little ahead, but just to have a little fun here on the podcast. But hey, if the Rangers at this point, I don't fear anybody. I think the Rangers can, they probably match up better against a team like the St. Louis Blues or the Edmonton Oilers. But even if Calgary comes back, and even if Colorado puts the St. Louis Blues to sleep here in Game 5, I still really, really like the Rangers' chance against anybody, right, Dan?
Exactly. I feel when the big spot comes, the greats rise to the top. I'll use an example. Another sport. Remember Super Bowl 42, Giants Patriots. The Eli Manning and Giants. They kept writing off the Giants. They thought no way they were going to beat the Patriots. It was like, I think they were even going as far as in the New England area, they were taking pre-orders for a book about what they assumed was going to be an undefeated season. Well, I can tell you one thing about it. I got to say, I'm sorry. I've got friends in Boston, but I will always remind them of this 18-1. I'll always go far as even showing them pictures for the Daily News. And all my memorabilia from that season I have in my collection. I'll show them pictures of it.
Yeah, man, that was a hell of a season, and it just goes to show you too that you just can't listen, because there's a reason why they play the game on the field or on the ice in this case. But it just like the Giants didn't listen. The Rangers aren't listening to anybody, because the Rangers were the clear underdog against Carolina right now, and they clearly have momentum on their side right now. So really fun stuff. Well, a best of 7 series is now down to a best of 3, as we've split the first 4 home games between the Rangers and
that it says on this rally.
What's that?
Take a look at what it says on this.
There we go, hon. Open it up a little more.
Let's see if I can open it up a little bit more. It's a little hard. It's a little hard to open up, but I'll have to put it here on my lap. Hold on. You can see what this says here. We never think we're down. And box number 23.
And he's right about that. We never think we're down. The New York Rangers, they don't stop for anybody. This is a hell of a team. And if you're not on the bandwagon yet, get on the bandwagon because this is going to be a hell of a fun ride. Let's just be hopeful we got more than 3 games left in us. And we got another series, right, Dan?
Yep, exactly.
All right. And now that we got the hockey out of the way, we got a lot of baseball to talk as our New York Mets, man, they've been having a couple of crazy days. So the last time we spoke, they were getting ready to jump on the road. They're going to Colorado, where the Mets would take 2 out of 3. I mean, let's just start there, Dan. They get snowed out on Friday, and boy, did you see all the snow that fell in Denver that night? That was crazy.
Saw pictures. I saw some stuff from people I speak to and follow that made the trip out to Denver. I said, man, they needed to build a retractable roof. It should have been that one. I also thought, yeah, remember going to go see the Mets on the road in Denver. Maybe just do that trip only if it's June, July, and August, because I wouldn't do that trip if it's I would wait till the season. I see, yeah, I don't have to worry about snow during that time the Mets are in town. So I guess that would be the good time to make the trip. But that does play a factor into deciding what away games I would go to. If I'm going to go to if it get on a given year I'm to attend an away game, I'm not going to do it at an area that's going to be that I got deal with snow. Of course, bear in mind retractable roofs, you could throw that away because weather would not be an issue. That actually happened when I saw the Mets on the road in Milwaukee in 2015. At first, I kept checking the weather, and I'm thinking, what am I doing checking the weather? I forgot they got a retractable roof. I don't need. This is one time I'm attending a game. I don't have to weather. So I stopped looking at the weather reports as I went to Milwaukee, and first time I attended a game in a retractable roof stadium was in Milwaukee.
Yeah, very cool. And Milwaukee has a great stadium too, by the way. Love that stadium. I've never been there yet. But
as a matter of fact, during that game, my mom could hear me chanting, "Let's go Mets." And Granderson was giving a nod to me when he crossed home plate after that home run because he saw my Mets flag. So he gave it. He signed the baseball for me. Class act of an individual, Curtis Granderson.
Oh yeah, you gotta love the Grandy man. Yeah, Granderson was one of the best Mets of the last decade, no doubt about it. Was a big fan of him, and very cool that he acknowledged you too when he was crossing home plate. But so with the Mets though, they go out to Colorado. They split the doubleheader on Saturday. Then man, we got a terrific pitching performance out of Taijuan Walker. What a great job he did. I mean, anytime you go to Coors Field and throw 7 shutout innings, you're doing something right?
Yep, exactly. And I guess it's a bit of an astronomical feat to pitch that. I remember a couple of years ago. Well, this wasn't Mets related, but a bunch of years ago, I remember hearing when I think it was Hideo Nomo that pitched a no-hitter when the Dodgers were the visiting team in Colorado. I was like, are my eyes playing tricks on me and that I'm hearing about this when I forgot I was watching SportsCenter or something. Someone actually pitched a no-hitter at Coors Field.
Yeah.
But so it can happen. It's very difficult, but I guess you could pitch a shutout. We've seen it a couple of times when the Mets were the visiting team in Colorado. We've seen Jacob deGrom do that, but then again, that's Jacob deGrom. He's
on a different level.
Once he's back, it's on. The guy is like, we're looking at the greats. I feel like, of course, when I've seen Jacob deGrom pitch, it's like all those Met fans I know that are older than me, even some relatives of mine, when they all talk about Tom Seaver, I feel that's what we're experiencing when we see Jacob deGrom pitch, and I hope he comes back to see more of that.
I agree. And, now that you have brought up deGrom, actually, as a matter of fact, perfect timing, perfect teaser there, a perfect segue, if you will. And they say we got that chemistry. We got that chemistry going. But so when you look at Jacob deGrom now, right? deGrom was just at Citi Field yesterday having it wasn't a technical bullpen session, but he was out there throwing from about 90 to 120 feet as this is one of his first steps coming back from his shoulder injury. Really great step in the right direction. I mean, they're saying multiple reports right now are saying the Mets are targeting a late June return, which would pretty much be on course for about a month with like a spring training type buildup. Man, how excited are you to see Jake back in this rotation? Because no offense to Thomas Skaputsky, whatever his name is, that pitched today, but boy, I'm really looking forward to seeing 48 and 21 get back in this rotation real quick.
Feel like so far I got to give props with the I feel we're holding up well, and don't let that loss just now deter our confidence in this team. I feel we got a good team. We'll bounce back from that. We'll bounce back for that loss, but I'm excited about the prospect of deGrom coming back for the stretch run, and hopefully being back when we really need him during that stretch run, and hopefully a postseason. And as soon as deGrom comes, I hear an inkling of when deGrom comes back, I might have to look into maybe buying a ticket or to that game.
Oh, no doubt about it, because you're going to want to see Jacob deGrom this year. He's going to be extremely motivated to pitch. And one thing we really haven't seen deGrom be blessed with in his tenure with the Mets is a competent offense. And boy, oh boy, this Met offense is just clicking on all cylinders right now. Didn't really get the job done today, but you can't blame them. They looked pretty winded, especially after a really, really awesome comeback effort last night, which we'll get into in a second. But I mean, geez, the Met pitching had been so good this year, but Chris Bassett, who was apparently battling a cold and some kind of sinus infection yesterday, got smacked around 4 innings, 8 runs, one of his worst starts, at least as a Met, probably even of his career. And, the Mets go out and lose yesterday, unfortunately, after a really, really terrific comeback. Today, this guy, Thomas Skaputsky, got handed his walking papers, because we're probably not going to see him again for the rest of this year, at least, even though he was off to a decent start in AAA with a 2.86 ERA down there. His ERA right now in the major leagues for this season, do you want to take a guess what his ERA is, Dan?
I'm guessing his ERA is 5 or somewhere in the 5s or 6s.
Try multiplying that by 10, because right now his major league ERA for this season is 60.25. How is that even possible?
I didn't even know that's possible. That's like someone who playing against somebody in MLB The Show, and a player having a losing record in that game.
Yeah, exactly. It's like playing a baby in MLB The Show. It's like, boy, oh boy. That's like if I went out and decided to pitch against the Giants today. So,
that's like if I were to play Jim Norton in MLB The Show, not to knock anything about Jimmy, he's a great comedian, but remember that bit that they had him, that I think was Laszlo or something, had to play when they were showing off I think it was GTA 4 at the time, and Jimmy had no clue what he was doing,
and he kept just dying, and
kind of what I expect if he were to pick up a controller and decide I'm gonna play MLB The Show with Bobo. If not, I don't think the chance of that actually happening would actually exist. But if somehow he decided to do that, I have a feeling that's what probably happened.
Well, the challenge is out there, Jimmy. If you want to prove Dan wrong, take him on an MLB The Show. Let's go. Let's go. We can have Jim and Sam versus best seat in the house.
Yep. I would love to see that. Well, if I would love to see that. Maybe, hopefully, well, I only have a PS4 right now because the PS5 is expensive. But set up a system on my end, set up a system on their end, and I would love to see that one.
That would definitely be cool. That would definitely be cool. And
plus, it would be cool to be able to say, "Yeah, I played video games with Jim Norton."
Yeah, you probably would be one of a very few amount of people that could ever say that. So that would definitely be a cool thing to say. No doubt about that, man. So as you know, we're talking about the Mets here. They really dominated. They went out and dominated on Monday night in San Francisco as they won 13-3. That was a really stress-free, awesome win just to see them swing the bats great. And then yesterday, even though they lost, you had 4 hits at a J.D. Davis, a big breakout game for Eduardo Escobar. Francisco Lindor drove in 6 runs, only 1 off of his career high. Lindor went out and hit another home run today, so maybe his bat's finally starting to come around again.
Exactly. He probably, hopefully, he offered Jabu some of the good rum.
Exactly.
Replica, and I offer him rum before the game.
Exactly, in Francisco Lindor's honor.
And I tell people, don't drink Jabu's rums. We'll figure and drink the rum. So usually afterwards, someone in the house will drink it. But during the game, don't touch Jabu's rum. It's bad luck to steal Jabu's rum, as we see in the movie. Because of course I own that Jabu replica because Major League is my favorite baseball movie.
Oh yeah, Major League is the best baseball movie in my opinion. I love that movie, no doubt about it.
Matter of fact, you remember at your Halloween party last Halloween, I showed up as Rick Vaughn.
Yes, you did. You were Rick Vaughn for the Halloween party over here, and that was a lot of fun. That was awesome. That's a great. I love that old school Cleveland Indians jersey, which I mean, obviously, you're never going to see again anyway because they're not even the Indians anymore. But I love that jersey, and maybe it's just because of that. The sentimental feelings from that movie, but that's just a great old jersey, right?
As a matter of fact, because of the movie Major League, when I went to a couple of years ago when Opie and Anthony did a broadcast in Cleveland, one of the things I did that weekend in Cleveland, I attended a game between the Cleveland Indians and the Anaheim Angels. Unfortunately, the Ice Cream Bowls didn't have the logo that we all know from the movie. It had that C logo. So I had to go on and I had to make sure to have that Indians logo, an ice cream bowl with that logo. So normally I only get the ice cream bowls when I've actually been to the stadium. But for this one, because I need to make sure to have that logo, I found one on eBay.
Very cool.
$2-3 for it. And to make sure to have that in my collection.
Yeah, I don't blame you for that. You don't want the stupid C logo.
So I have that in my collection from ice cream bowls from MLB ballparks I've been to. And by the way, that ballpark, I feel like there were some things that may have inspired some of the architecture at Citi Field. Because I noticed some area that looks like an area at Citi Field that's kind of changed names a bunch of times. I know for a while it was called the Acela Club. I think we renamed it the Porsche Grill. I forget what they call it now, but there was an area I noticed in the stadium that looked a little bit similar to that. So I noticed some little architecture similarities I still call it Jacobs Field, by the way, because I know some people from Cleveland, so I still call it Jacobs Field.
Yeah, I agree. I know you should call it Jacobs Field because nobody cares that it's called Progressive Field anymore. And and I agree with you too. I feel like the Mets incorporated a lot of modern ballpark uh, designs and features in City Field. I also see a lot of like certain things about even though I still think of it as Bank One Ballpark. It hasn't been called that in a long time. Chase Field in Arizona. There are certain things about there. I wish they could have included the pool there. That would have been pretty cool.
Actually, I kind of wish they would have included the retractable roof because I remember when they first announced that Citi Field was going to be, when they first announced the early plans, I think it was in the late 90s, early 2000s. Unfortunately, it didn't work out with those plans, but Citi Field had originally planned to have a retractable roof, and I remember thinking that was going to be neat to be able to go to a game and not worry about a rainout. That I would have loved to have had that, be able to go to a game and not worry about rainouts.
Oh yeah, and there was even actually plans before they even built Citi Field. I want to say also maybe around the same time, the 90s and the early 2000s, that they were going to put a roof on Shea Stadium, which, I mean, the way Shea was built and the way it happened, I think that would have been, and I guess it proved to be the case, because that would have been way too crazy and way too expensive of a project.
I feel the way Shea was built, it was not built to be able to add. They may have been able to add certain additions to Shea Stadium, but I don't think that roof would have worked that well. I know there was all kinds of crazy plans they had thought of with Shea Stadium. I remember there was even some plans to do like some modifications. If supposedly in 70s or the early 80s, New York had placed a bid for the 84 Olympics, so there was plans for that. I remember Citi Field was going to have some rarely modifications for if you would have got the 2012 Olympics. I'm not sure you remember that one.
Oh yeah, I do remember that being in play first, and then obviously 2012 ended up going to London, I believe, right?
Back London, but Citi Field had some temporary modifications, including some temporary seats I remember hearing were going to be added. And I know from 2009 all the way up till like after 2012, Citi Field would have looked like a work in progress. It would have looked weird. As a matter of fact, as crazy as it would have seemed during the 2012 season, had we would have gotten the Olympics, the Mets were going to have to share Yankee Stadium with the Yankees, which would have felt weird having to see the Mets play their home games at Yankee Stadium on what was their 50th anniversary season, by the way.
Yeah, that definitely would have been crazy. And I mean, we've seen the Yankees play at Shea Stadium, which they did in 1974 and 1975, and also for a brief period in 1998 when the Yankees had a piece of their upper deck fall down and they had to fix that up.
Yep, I remember that. I remember there was the Mets had played a game earlier that day, and the Yankees had played a nightcap. I decided to attend both out of curiosity to see what that was like, because this is something that a rare occurrence. I decided to attend both ends. Of course, I was rooting against the Yankees at the nightcap to see what it was like. So I attended both ends of it, and it was like weird seeing. I have to admit, Bob Shepard, great announcer. Of course, I remember he also did the PA announcements for Giant Stadium for the New York Giants for a while. It was weird hearing Bob Shepard's voice at Shea Stadium.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that, and also very cool too. Also what's his name? Darryl Strawberry hit a home run in one of those games there.
They got, I guess whoever controlled the home run apple thought it'd be a nice little nod to saluting Darryl Strawberry for all he did for the Mets. Mm-hmm. I think they had the apple go halfway up.
It was halfway, yep.
For seeing it happen, I didn't expect the apple was going to go up for a Yankee home run, even though the Yankees were the home team in that game. But they did it out of a nice gesture to Darryl Strawberry. They had the apple go halfway up.
Yeah, and Steinbrenner must have loved that too. But it definitely rubbed a lot of Met fans the wrong way. But I didn't have a problem with it. Everybody, Strawberry, the guy won a World Series here. He won Rookie of the Year. in the Mets Hall of Fame. I mean, you got to love Darryl Strawberry.
I've actually met him many times, including remember I told you that time I met like several of the players back then when I was little during that fateful summer. I was very little.
Yeah,
I got a picture with. So
very cool.
And him, he's been a really nice guy ever since every time I've met him.
Yeah, I met Darryl down in spring training one year, maybe 10, 12 years ago, 2010, 2012, right around there. And yeah, the guy couldn't have been nicer. Such a good guy. So glad he turned his life around too. You know, you gotta root for a guy like that.
Exactly. I was seeing some interviews with him, and I saw him talk. During the panel at the Queen's Convention. I'm happy he's finally living his best life.
Exactly. And we just hope that, you know, the same is being said for Doc Gooden, who really hasn't been in the news lately, and that's probably a good thing. So hopefully he's on the up and up too.
Exactly. Live their best life. They're taking it one day at a time, and I hope they keep at it, as they always do with. Whenever I hear a friend of mine or a friend or relative that's in a situation where they need some help, I'm rooting for them always.
Exactly, man. And also, you know, the other thing too is we're just about to wrap up with the Mets here. You know, we talked about their pitching and how good their pitching's been all year. You know, you got the great start from David Peterson on Monday. We're talking about Taijuan Walker's great effort at Coors Field on Sunday. Obviously, Skapsky didn't really have that great a day today as he got hammered around. But you know, the last 2 days, the Mets starter has allowed 8 runs in each game. That's the first time that's happened to Mets starting pitchers since May 19th and 20th, 2015, when it happened to John Neese and Bartolo Colon on back-to-back days. So, you know, it's not a fun stat, but think about that for a second. One more thing tying this Mets team into a former pennant-winning team, right?
Exactly. And of course, we got Bartolo Colon. Bartolo Colon was great more than not, but even the greats had their little bad days. And fortunately, that did happen sometimes with Bartolo when he wasn't going quite well. It didn't go well, but Bartolo was great more than not.
Yeah.
And feeling that this team might be not only similar to 2015, but even beyond what we had in that 2015, hopefully.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the 2015 team got to the World Series. Now let's hope that the 2022 team can get there and win the whole damn thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. The movie Major League.
Exactly. Let's win the whole damn thing. So, you know, well, we brought it full circle there. That's that chemistry I was talking about before. So let's let's wrap up here as we're coming down to the final leg here. Got to give the Yankees their due, even though they've been scuttling a little bit. They lost the series finale last week in Baltimore on a walk-off 3-run home run. They had a tough time with the White Sox this weekend as they won on Saturday, but then were swept in the doubleheader on Sunday, and then they went out and lost on Monday night to Baltimore again, this time at the stadium. You know, Garrett Cole had a rough game. He's been good lately, though. You can't really knock Garrett Cole. Obviously, you're still getting MVP level production out of Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton. You know, Dan, 30-13. You know, Yankee fans, I'm sure, can be upset at the last couple of games as they will. But just a really good, solid Yankee team here, right, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I have to say one thing before you raise eyebrows about the team losing to the Baltimore. As it's always the case, you got to remember when even facing a team that's having losing, then it's still a challenge, and you can't take any opponent lightly.
No, you're absolutely right about that.
Look, we lost. And I don't want to relive those painful memories, but back-to-back years, we came up 1 win short of making it, and we lost to a team that, well, you know the whole story.
Yeah, you're referencing the Florida Marlins knocking the Mets out in back-to-back years in 08, and 07 and 08.
And any opponent lightly.
Yeah, no, you definitely can't. You definitely can't take any opponent lightly because you know what, though? There's a lot of truth when people say that, any given Sunday or any given day, in baseball, even the worst teams still win somewhere between 50 and 60, maybe even 70 times a year. So the worst teams are still going to get you every once in a while. And even the best teams, I mean, look, the 98 Yankees lost 48 games. So 48 times somebody got the better of the 98 Yankees. So just you can't sit here and expect to sweep every bad team or go undefeated against them. And you know what? The Orioles might be still considered a bad team, or as Keith Hernandez would say, a second division team, but they're better than they have been the last couple of years, and they're definitely more competitive.
And that prospect looks like he's on that they get. I think their catcher, I forget his name. It looks like he's on the rise. I remember a friend of mine that works that lives in North Carolina happened to see guy's last minor league game because he works at that stadium, and said, "This guy looks good."
Yeah, the catcher you're talking about is their number one prospect, Adley Rutschman, and he made his debut just the other day. His first career hit was a triple in the corner. Very, very cool that you get that done. The last time that a Baltimore Orioles player debuted and had a triple as their first career hit was Manny Machado. So I mean, hey, if you're going off that, if Adley Rutschman turns in anything close to Manny Machado, I'd say that this is definitely the beginning of better times ahead for the Baltimore Orioles, right, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. And to any of my friends, I got friends from that area that are fans of the Orioles. You guys got a good player. To put it this way, you're gonna have a good one for the coming years.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So let's hope the Orioles keep things going. But for the Yankees, the real story starts after tonight because you got whatever Sears going tonight. He's a spot starter, minor league guy. But starting tomorrow, the Yankees begin a 4-game road trip where they're going to Tampa Bay. 4 big games started. Nestor Cortez is kicking off Thursday night. Then you have Tyone on Friday night. Garrett Cole's going on Saturday, and Luis Severino is going on Sunday. So the Yankees are throwing a bunch of big guns out there against a very good Tampa Bay team that's still always in the mix. The Yankees have had trouble with Tampa Bay the last couple of years. This is put your money where your mouth is time, right, Dan?
Exactly. I know some Yankee fans in Florida are going to be attending that game that I know are going to be attending that game. We're going to see 3 very highly contested games in Tampa.
No doubt about it. I mean, and these are teams that have played playoff games and have been, trading blows in the divisional, fighting for divisional supremacy the last couple of years. And I definitely don't expect any different.
Yep, exactly. I expect 2 highly contested games. I expect even potentially maybe 1 or 2 of those 3 games being low scoring games. I'm not really big into sports gambling, but if you are into that, you might want to consider that the possibility of low scoring games if you're on the phone with a bookie or going on it's legal in New York, you're on your sports betting app and then placing a bet. Consider the fact that you could end up with low scoring games.
You got that right. You bet the over under. I mean, now you're talking like Gino Bisconti right now, and I kind of like it, Dan, because I think you're right about that. You see a lot of good pitchers on the hill. for both teams this weekend. You could definitely see a lot of low scoring affairs. So if you got any of those sports betting apps, the over under, as told by Daniel Bobo Kurlan, betting the under is probably a good bet. I definitely don't disagree with you. And, there are a couple of games waiting for the Yankees after this 4-game set is finished up with Tampa Bay as well, as they're going to have 3 at the stadium against the LA Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. It looks like, too, the way the pitching matchups are going to break out, that one of those 3 games is going to be started by former Met Noah Syndergaard. So very, very interesting times ahead for the Yankees, as they're, minus the White Sox, the weak part of their schedule is going to start coming to an end.
Exactly. And if one of those games against Anaheim, the one that Syndergaard is pitching, if it's not on at the same time as the Met game or the Rangers playoff game, I might take a good look at it. If it's not on, of course, also if it's not on Amazon Prime. I don't have an Amazon Prime subscription right now. I'll probably have to get one during football, at least for a month, for one of the Giants games that are airing on Amazon Prime because of that dumb deal. But if I can get it on TV, and it's not on the same time as the Mets or Rangers, the playoff, take a look at that game potentially on TV.
Very true. I just took a look too, and it looks like all 3 of those games are on the Yes Network, so you should be able to catch that. And I guarantee, as long as the Rangers are still going at this point, it's probably going to interfere with at least 1 or maybe even 2 of those Yankees Angels games.
I'll probably rewatch it because even though of course it's blacked out on the MLB.TV app, the replays of the game are available. So I might take a look at the game afterwards on the MLB.TV app.
No doubt about it. And you know what? Let me ask you a question, Dan, that obviously you're a world-renowned Met fan, but what would you be rooting for if you're watching, if you're sitting down next to Mr. Malone again next week, and there's nothing else going on, and you got the Yankee and Angel game going on, and Noah Syndergaard is pitching at Yankee Stadium for the Angels, who are you rooting for? Are you rooting for Noah to get knocked around? Are you rooting for Noah to mow the Yankees down for a complete game shutout? What's your thoughts about that?
Games against the Yankees, even though I still haven't forgiven Syndergaard for the way he kind of didn't give us a chance to maybe give him a better offer. I'm probably rooting for Syndergaard to maybe pitch a shutout against the Yankees, then just go in the Yankees' faces and just take a picture of himself shirtless on the mound just for the heck of it. Because you know how he loves the shirtless tweets.
He definitely does love a good shirtless tweet pic, no doubt about that. But you know what though? I gotta say, I differ with you. I always liked Noah. I always defended Noah, especially, with all his stuff on social media. Some people didn't like that, especially in the media here. And man, him, just like you said before, not giving us a chance to bring him back after all the months of him saying that, he wants to be a Met. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He can't see pitching anywhere else but the Mets. And then all of a sudden he just takes $21 million and goes to the Angels. And look, I don't blame him for taking the money, but what makes him, I don't understand that the Mets have more money than anybody now. They could have given him the money. He just chose not to. I feel like I would have even been more forgiving of him if the Wilpons were still the owners, because I wouldn't have had the confidence that the Wilpons would fork over $20 million for him coming off that injury. But I don't know, just the fact that he did that to us, and then the icing on the cake that really solidified it for me that I'd be rooting for an Aaron Judge 2-run shot in the first inning is when he came out a couple of weeks ago, and I know he's just doing his thing because whatever, he's Noah Syndergaard and he's gonna poke and prod, but I did not like how he didn't give credit to the Mets pitchers for throwing the no-hitter. after that. What do you think about that?
I was bothered by that statement. And also, I have to admit, not only was I upset about that statement and when Syndergaard left, my girl was upset. That's one of her favorite players on the Mets because she loves the Syndergaard, especially because of that. Because she also loves the Practical Jokers, and that was one of her favorite Practical Jokers moments. Was that clip? You remember that episode, right?
Yes, I recall that with the Syndergaard and everything, and I totally agree. That that just seemed like it was just like a lame thing to say or do. Like, you know, take a shot at your former team because they threw a combined no hitter. I'm sorry, and I do kind of understand what he's saying too, but a combined no hitter is much harder, in my opinion, to accomplish than a no hitter thrown by one person. So if I still had to choose, obviously I'd still pick the pitcher throwing a complete game for a no hitter. But throwing a combined no hitter is a very impressive feat.
Yeah, that is an impressive feat, and I can tell you, all five members of the pitchers I will forever call the no hit five, they will never have to buy a beer in New York again.
You got that right, man. Absolutely. And with that, buddy, I think we're just about ready to wrap it up here. We had a great show today. Thanks everybody for tuning in and catching now episode 12 of the Best Seat in the House podcast. Dan, before we get out of here, give yourself some Twitter and social media plugs.
Sure, you can follow me at Bobo103NYC on Twitter. You could also check me out on Instagram at Bobo718DK and Daniel Kurlan on YouTube as well. I got content on YouTube as well.
All right. Yeah. And make sure to check out Dan there. Always a lot of fun content. And you can check me out on Twitter account. Obviously, my last name Cramer. That's CRAMERNY as my Twitter handle. You could also check out the Best Seat in the House podcast Twitter account at BSITH _podcast, and check us out on Instagram as well at Best Seat in the House podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe our video if you think we've earned it, and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts too. Also, if you think we've earned it, because we've been getting a lot of traction on social media and across all of our accounts lately. So we just want to thank everybody that has supported us and taken the time to listen to and share our content. Right, Dan?
Exactly. Thank you all for subscribing to this glorious podcast me and my friend Robert had put together, and we hope to be able to do more of these. And thank you guys all for your support. Don't forget to spread the word to help grow this show even bigger.
Absolutely. So with that, thanks again for tuning in, everybody. We'll catch you next week. I'm Rob Cramer, along with my co-host Daniel Bobo Kurlan, and thanks again for watching the Best Seat in the House podcast.